SuperTalk Mississippi Media production.
At Black Sheep Boutique, we don't want you to fit in. We want you to stand out. And we have everything you need to look the part this spring, from clothing to accessories. Visit one of our 2 locations in Tupelo and Saltillo, or visit our website at theblacksheeptupelo.com. Stand out this spring with the Black Sheep Boutique in Tupelo.
This is an encore presentation of the best of mornings with Richard Cross.
But when I close my eyes late at night, you can bet I thank my maker. She keeps on loving me, loves me the way I am.
Their catalog's a whole lot more than just this song, but that's a really, really good one. Mornings with Richard Cross at Community Bank. We're here for every part of your financial journey, looking to manage your personal finances. Our banking services make it simple, secure, and tailored to you. Ready to grow your business? We offer expert guidance and custom solutions to help your business thrive. Dreaming of a new home? Our mortgage specialists are here to make the process seamless, all designed with you in mind. We're more than a bank. We're your partner for life's biggest moments. Community Bank, rooted in our community. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Mornings with Richard Cross is presented by Community Bank. Online at communitybанk.net. Rex Baker joins us this morning. He is CEO of Gateway Rescue Mission. And Rex, I appreciate some of your time this morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Richard. Glad to be here.
I don't think there is ever a slow time necessarily for Gateway Rescue Mission, but when we get into the cold weather season, the holiday time in particular, do you see an uptick in activity?
We do. There is more people come in at night. What we really see an uptick also is in people getting involved. Like yesterday morning, I went by a friend's house and they loaded up about 10 boxes of blankets to donate. Wow. So that sort of thing we see picking up a lot this time of year also. But there's really not a slow time for us.
Yeah. Can you give us a high-level overview of Gateway Rescue Mission, kind of what you are doing on a day-to-day basis, what services are available?
Sure. We are a faith-based homeless shelter. We serve 3 meals a day to the public. Most are homeless. Some are low income in the area, maybe subsisting on a slim budget. And so they can come in and eat with us. And we have our overnight shelter. It's an overnight shelter for men who are homeless. One of our big things is our rehabilitation program. We have an addiction recovery program called our New Life program. And that is a 6-month program where people can come in and reside with us and who are wanting to come off drugs and addictions. And that's one of the main drivers that we're seeing right now.
What is the balance that you see? You talked about the overnight program a second ago of people who are in a state of almost hopelessness to go along with their homelessness compared to those who are doing everything they can to make it, to push forward, they have some sort of employment during the day and then come to you for overnights.
We see some of that. We do have some people who come in and look, I need a place to stay for a few nights. I've got a job. I just need to save some money. Unfortunately, that's not the majority of what we see. Most of the people who come to us what we would call the chronically homeless, are going to have some sort of a mental issue that just causes them problems in life. We see a lot of schizophrenia, and over the last 5 or 6 years, we've seen an explosion in the homeless population in our area with crystal meth use. Yeah. So that's one of the main drivers right now. A lot of people don't like to talk about that because doesn't give you the warm fuzzies.
Sure,
but it's a reality.
Well, and I mean that was going to be kind of my follow-up question. I mean, how many of the people that are coming to you have addiction issues that they're dealing with? Whether it's crystal
about
meth
90%.
or wow,
yeah, it's going to be way up there. Yeah, and that I would include in that also. It's people who have they done drugs at some point. Most have. And what we're calling it now, the super meth, it's the new way of, actually it's an old way, but after they outlawed ephedrine-based meth, we saw a shift to what is called P2P meth, or super meth. It's short for phenylpropanone. It's a chemical that has a lot of household chemicals and stuff in it. It's really, old meth used to create euphoria. So they say. I never tried it, but the new meth creates a paranoia. So you see people on the streets, they're paranoid, they're having hallucinations, they see things that aren't there. So they don't want to come to the shelter. They don't want to go to the rehab program. So they stay out in these homeless camps where they all do meth together. And that's what we're seeing a lot of.
Rex Baker is CEO of Gateway Rescue Mission. Incredible work that is happening there. This may be a personal question, so forgive me if it is. How do you stay?
Go ahead.
How do you stay out of the judgment business?
Sometimes that does creep in. Yeah. Well, if they just get their act together, if they would just come in and get help, but it is also, and I think this could be said with a lot of people who are in this type of work, it's sort of a divine calling where you're sort of equipped with a radar that also allows you to be compassionate with people. I mean, we see some sad stuff. There was an older guy who passed away the other night. He was outside in the cold somewhere in Jackson. We think we know who he was, but he would not come into a shelter.
Yeah.
So, judgment is something that we all have to, in our line of work, try to keep in check. You need a certain amount of it, but you don't need to go overboard with it.
Yeah. There are people who have this moral dilemma when they see a homeless person on a sidewalk, on a street corner, at an intersection. Do I give money? Do I give whatever? Or are they just going to go get their next hit? Are they just going to go buy a pint of whatever to drink? And I had an interaction one time years ago in Miami. I was there with my wife, and there was a lady who was panhandling on the sidewalk there. And by the way, I feel like homeless people more times than not would go to a warm climate as opposed to being in a cold place. It seems like that makes more sense. But there was a McDonald's next door, and so I went in and I bought a value meal with a couple of extra cheeseburgers in it, and I took that to her. And I don't know that I've ever seen hatred on the face the way she looked at me when I gave her that. She did not want food. She did not want McDonald's. She wanted money. And it left a really, I was trying to do something good. What advice do you give to people when they are asked directly for money by panhandlers?
I am jaded on that, Richard, because the area of town we work, we're on Gallatin Street, our mission in Jackson. And so I drive the strip down to I-20 a lot. And so we go into the homeless camps. We work with the people. And I see people that we go in, that we work with, and they're out on the street corner panhandling. So I know what they're doing. They're using that money to sustain their lifestyle, and that includes buying drugs. And that's just the reality of it. I don't know that that's always been the case historically, but it is the case much of the time. When you buy somebody food fresh from McDonald's and they don't want it, that tells you something.
Yeah, it does. And I'm not saying that McDonald's is the answer either, but it just was what was close. And I thought, hey, we'll do it. She's actually hungry right now. We'll try something, and it didn't work out. So in terms of getting involved, you mentioned people, an uptick that you see in this particular time of year with people making donations. What are the ways that people can help at Gateway Rescue Mission?
I don't want to sound too crass, but we can always use financial donations.
Sure.
We're actually renovating a building right now to enlarge and grow our addiction recovery program. So we're really excited about that. But that sort of thing costs money. And so you can go to our website at gatewaymission.org and make a contribution. I would ask people to also come down and call us up, set up a time to come down and look around. We'd love that. But, out in in different locations around the state where you may not have a Gateway Rescue Mission real close by. Sometimes just being aware of what's going on. If you see somebody out, there's nothing wrong with stopping and speaking, saying, "Hey, how can I help you?" Even if they are just trying to scam, they're still a human being. And sometimes I have to keep that in mind.
Yeah. It is an incredible work that you and all the people are doing. How many meals are you serving a day?
Probably a couple of hundred if you add it all up over the 3 meals.
Yeah.
It's good food, too. Yeah.
There you go. I like that. Rex Baker, CEO at Gateway Rescue Mission. Appreciate your time this morning. Appreciate you sharing what's going on. Give us the website one more time that people can learn more about Gateway Rescue.
GatewayMission.org. There
it is, gatewaymission.org. Rex, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for the work that you're doing and all the others at Gateway.
Thank you, Richard.
And it's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. We will continue the conversation with you coming up next. Thanks for joining us. We're back right now.
Best of Mornings with Richard Cross next.
Hey, this is Bob.
This is an encore presentation of the Best of Mornings with Richard Cross.
I was only 17 back then, but it seems like I knew more than I do now. I can't say.
Glad to be with you. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. MRC is presented by Community Bank. At Community Bank, we're here for every part of your financial journey. Looking to manage your personal finances, our banking services make it simple, secure, and tailored to you. Ready to grow your business? We offer expert guidance and custom solutions to help your business thrive. Dreaming of a new home? Our mortgage specialists are here to make the process seamless. All designed with you in mind. We're more than just a bank. We're your partner for life's biggest moments. Community Bank, rooted in our community, member FDIC. And now, happy to welcome a couple of our friends from Mississippi Farm Bureau. President of the Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation, Mike McCormick, is with us, and Vice President for Sales with Mississippi Farm Bureau, Henry Hamill. 2 great Americans with me in studio. Gentlemen, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Henry, we got to pull this mic down just a little bit closer to you. There we go. That ought to get us. I try not to go into interviews or conversations that we have completely blind. But I wanted this conversation to not have a lot of information for me coming into it because I'm learning about this just like I think our listeners are learning about it as well. I feel like most people, when they think about Farm Bureau in Mississippi, they think about it as a member organization where you can get auto insurance and life insurance and home and property. I guess property and casualty is the right term. And that's kind of what Farm Bureau has always been. We also know that people are scared to death of health insurance right now because it has gotten so incredibly expensive. And now Mississippi Farm Bureau has entered the health coverage space. Mike, I was careful not to use the word insurance there because you told me that was not the right word. So if you can start, Mike, and give us kind of a high-level overview, what exactly is it that we're talking about here in terms of health coverage for Mississippians?
Well, let's start with the background of Farm Bureau. We were started in 1922 to be the voice of agriculture for the state of Mississippi and nationally through American Farm Bureau all across the United States. Back during the 1940s, people found out that you couldn't get insurance in rural areas, and our membership came together and said, we got to solve this problem. So we put our membership dollars to work and capitalized Mississippi Farm Bureau Casualty Insurance Company and Southern Farm Bureau Life Insurance Company, and they're both domiciled here in the state, and we're proud to have them, and they do a great job with what they do. I'm the 10th president of Farm Bureau. To be president of Farm Bureau, you have to be a full-time farmer, so that's what I do. That's my day job when I'm not working here. So I'm not an insurance salesperson, but very fortunate to have some really good ones like Henry that handle all of that for us. But what we do is solve problems for Mississippi. And one of the things that I've heard loud and clear from my 11 years that I've been Farm Bureau president is we have an issue with our health care system, and we need some help. So Henry and I started talking about this, I guess, about 10 years ago. There is another state that had a Farm Bureau health plan established, and we were looking to do something very similar with it to try to get some something affordable to our members that would work for them on their farms and for people that are small business owners. And it just didn't work at the time. And through the process, we came back to the table about almost 3 years now. Ran a bill through the legislature that will allow Farm Bureau to sell a product that's not insurance. It's Farm Bureau Health Plan. It's going to be modeled a little bit differently, but I think people will look at it and understand it a lot like what things look like before the Affordable Care Act. So with this plan, we can do something different. It's not regulated by the Department of Insurance. So we are able to sell this plan year round. We won't stop at the end of open enrollment, and it's just been a dream come true. We've worked really hard on this from a business standpoint, trying to find the right third-party administrator to come in and work with us on this, and we decided that that group was Arkansas Blue Cross. They have been working with Farm Bureau of Arkansas for about a year doing this up there. And they came down and made a pitch to us, and we created this partnership that I think is going to work really well for the people here in the state of Mississippi and create some savings in a space that is much needed.
So, Henry, you've got agents in all 82 counties in Mississippi, and I would say that in all 82 counties you've got people that are concerned about the cost of their current health insurance or the inability to be able to afford health insurance. This is a health care plan. What are you saying to people? Has this only been rolled out for, a couple of months now? Is that right?
We started November the 1st.
Okay.
So it's only been going a month and a half or so. And we've already written over 2,000 people on this plan around the state. It's really taken off well like we expected. Our agents are really out, letting the public know about it and doing a great job with that. And like I said, we got 287 agents around the state right now that are eligible to write this plan for anybody that qualifies.
What does it look like?
It's very similar to the old Blue Cross type plan they had. We used to, as agents, sell a Blue Care plan years ago, and it's very similar to that. It's got different deductibles all the way from $250 to $10,000 as options. It's an 80-20 plan. You got a doctor's copay, you got a pharmacy copay, maternity is a rider that's optional. It does have pre-existing conditions clauses, and things like that. So it's a plan that you have to be approved for, just like for life insurance or car insurance or anything else, that you go through underwriting and be approved based on the criteria that's set within the plan.
So if you are a healthy Mississippian, then this is a plan that is probably worth looking at?
Absolutely.
They need to go by and call their local county Farm Bureau office, get in touch with their agent, because it's going to work for them.
Yeah.
I've known Henry for a while now, and even though he's vice president, he's got a lot of management things that fall under him. I know that at his core, he is a salesman, and so I'm assuming that with a brand new product to sell and to help your agent sell, that this felt like a great opportunity for Farm Bureau, but also it only works if it's a good opportunity for people in Mississippi. It's
an absolute win-win. I mean, as being someone that sold a lot of health, coverage back in the day, this plan is really filling a need that's out there. I mean, if you're a farmer or self-employed type person, or somebody that's not getting a heavy subsidy from the government on the ACA plans, if you fit into those categories, whether it be attorneys, accountants, whatever it is that you do, you need to give a Farm Bureau agent a call, because we're seeing savings of $500, $600, $700, $800 a month, $1,000 a month per family in many cases. I mean, I'll give you an example. A 19-year-old is like I saw the sheet a minute ago, $170 a month, for like a 19-year-old kid. So you got a lot of situations where people have coverage, maybe at work, group coverage, but then they're having to pay for their dependent coverages. And so all of those are opportunities to save money too, and I think you can probably drop dependent coverage any time. And just like Mike said, we're writing this plan 12 months out of the year. We're not having to fall under the guidelines of the ACA because it is a different thing. It's not insurance, as it said, but we've got Blue Cross Blue Shield is our third-party administrator that's doing all the work behind the scenes for us, handling all the claims, using their network. So if you're in a Blue Cross, if you go in network with Blue Cross, you get the same network that you have with us that you have with the state of Mississippi on their plans, or anybody that's got Blue Cross network around the nation. So anyway, and
Mike, that's one of the big issues that people have when they start looking at insurance coverage. They're like, can I go to my doctor? Can I go see the doctor that I've always gone to see, whether it's a specialist or a primary care physician? When you talk about the Blue Cross network, that is the biggest network of healthcare providers in Mississippi, right?
When we looked at who we would use as our third-party administrator, and we had some other options, Blue Cross sold us on the idea that you'd have to work really hard to get out of network with this plan. So if it's somewhere that takes Blue Cross, they will take this plan.
When you talk about there are pre-existing condition restrictions there, I mean, obviously that is based on cost, right? I mean, if you just everybody can get into it, then it's going to have to cost more because you get people that are sick more often and have major catastrophic medical issues. How stringent is the review process when you talk about being eligible for this?
It's depending on the person. A lot of times it may depend on the cost of the medications that they're having to take or the condition that they have. It's there's certain things that they've got listed. I don't have them in front of me that are automatic. Yeah. If you got cancer, we can't help you. But that's why we also partnered with Ambetter. At the same time we did this, we partnered with Ambetter, who's an ACA plan, insurance plan that they write, that our agents can now write through, so that we got the best of both worlds. So if we have a situation where somebody can't get get coverage with us, then we run them through that plan. Or if they've got some surgeries planned or something like that we keep somebody from being eligible, then we'll write them through that. So that's kind of the angle. When we finally got back into it, we went all in.
Let's take a quick time out. We'll continue the conversation on the other side of the break. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi.
If you leave me, babe, say you won't be back, that would be enemy.
More of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross next.
Hi, I'm Josh.
Where the story of your state gets told each day. We're proud to cover the Magnolia State like nobody else. SuperTalk Mississippi.
This is an encore presentation of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross.
Good to be with you this morning. Mornings with Richard Cross. The C Spire text line is open, 601-879-4395. That's the best way for you to be part of the conversation. I feel like I need to put this out there just as a disclosure. I think if you listen to SuperTalk Mississippi, you know that Mississippi Farm Bureau has been a great partner of ours for a really long time. This conversation with Mike McCormick, president of the Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation, and Henry Hamill, vice president of sales with Mississippi Farm Bureau Insurance Companies, is not a sales pitch. We're not trying to convince you to buy anything, but it is information that I feel like needs to be out there because this is an opportunity for Mississippians that has not existed in an insurance environment that has become increasingly expensive. For some people, it has become debilitatingly expensive in terms of their monthly budget and the ability to make sure that they've got health care. The world changed when the Affordable Care Act came into place. Obamacare, as it has been called by many, that's been a bit of a pejorative for a lot of people when they've talked about the ACA. So, Henry, and I know you've kind of answered this question, but in terms of this Farm Bureau health care plan, who is eligible?
Anybody eligible from 6 months to 64 and almost 65 can get on this plan.
So before you roll into Medicare age and after you're born.
Right.
Okay. So that's pretty wide swath of people that are available. Mike, you said a second ago that the legislature paved the way for this to be a possibility. Explain what you mean by that.
Well, we had to change a law that would allow us to do this, that would name us a nonprofit agricultural membership organization. They would give us the ability to write a non-regulated plan like this that, quite frankly, cuts through a lot of the red tape that the Affordable Care Act created and matched what some of our companies in other states, other Farm Bureau states, were doing. We were the 10th state to be able to cut through that and create this plan that will allow us to pass the savings along to our members. I think it's just going to be a really good thing. As one high-ranking government official here told me not so long ago, is this is what happens when government gets out of the way and let private industry figure out the answers to what the problems are. And we have done that. Feel really good about it. We put a tremendous amount of work in this over the last. That's why it's taken us almost 3 years to get it going. We wanted to make sure with our Farm Bureau name on it that it was done right and that we stand behind it, and it's something that we can all be proud of. So,
what about HSAs? We get a question on the C Spire text line about that, health savings accounts. How do they factor into this landscape?
There are a lot of options out there for HSAs. Really don't factor into this. This is a totally separate type thing.
I guess maybe the question that I've got is, with those HSAs, there's a limit to what there are a lot of things that you can spend money on if your employer provides an HSA. I don't think you can pay health insurance premiums out of an HSA. Because this is not health insurance, can you use HSA funds to pay your monthly premium, for lack of a better way to describe it?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
We're in the process of trying to get people advice, and I would just say go talk to your accountant to see what they say on this issue. It's not insurance; it's a health plan. So your accountant's going to have to tell you if it's a business how you can handle that.
What about major medical issues? People talk about catastrophic medical plans that if they go to some sort of a group plan that's not traditional insurance, sometimes you've got to have a major medical rider or something along that goes with. How does major medical fall in it? The big expenses that you face that go to health insurance?
Well, this plan right here is an 80-20 plan. It's got a $2 million yearly life maximum per year. So
yearly, not lifetime
yearly,
of the policy. Yearly.
The old plans we used to write had a $2 million lifetime maximum. This is $2 million per year. We've got this plan reinsured for that catastrophic type situation that a customer might have, and so it's gonna kick in and do like that.
One thing that I need to mention is Henry talked about this being underwritten, and it would exclude pre-existing conditions on some categories. But once you get in, if you've been in and you pass the underwriting process and something happens, then you're still in the plan. They keep you. It just is the part of the process that we can go through to underwrite it to not accept those into the pool of people that would drive the cost of the plan up right off the bat.
So you're not kicked out if life happens?
No, sir.
No.
Okay.
You're not kicked out, Richard, and also, when we go through the underwriting process, you can be approved just as we, sent up on a price-wise. You can be rated up. Maybe you have a little issue. That we don't want to reject you, but we want to take you. So then we take you maybe at just a little higher rate.
Okay.
And then in the worst case scenario, we can't take you. But in those scenarios where we can't take you, we've got other options, which is the ACA option, to do that. But, what we found is that where we're most, the need is those people out in the communities that maybe aren't getting huge subsidies on ACA. And like I said, dependents that are on other people's plans, and then it's certainly the self-employed market, whatever it may be, that that's not getting subsidies or huge subsidies that
they're having to pay out of pocket for health insurance. Period.
Right.
Let me paint a couple of family scenarios for you, and you tell me, hey, this is something that makes sense, or it's not something that makes sense. I'll just start with our family and the way that we're made up. So, I work for TeleSouth, and I'm covered. Pay my premium through them. My wife is a small business owner. Doesn't make sense based on the dollars for her and our kids, she and our kids, to be on my insurance through TeleSouth. Her business has a health insurance plan, and our kids are on her coverage. Now, in terms of business premiums this year, it went up 35%. So if you take our family situation, how does this make sense for us?
Well, probably more than likely, you're probably going to be better off staying on the SuperTalk plan.
Okay.
Hers, she would want to look at. If it's a real small group, then you might want to look and see from a price-wise. Certainly, you'd want to get quotes on the kids. Give me an example. How old are your children?
15, 13, and 8. Girl, boy, girl.
So, I mean, for a 15-year-old, around $217 a month is what it runs. Actually goes down. That's a $1,000 deductible. Probably you may or may not have 1,000. You probably have more than 1,000.
I think it's more than that.
It goes down at age 19 to 150 on a boy, and then it starts gradually going back up. At age 32, it's $212 a month. But it's also a plan that they can keep, until they turn 65. So, once you get on there, you're on there, and you get them on there when they're healthy. And the girl's going to run about the same price for that $1,000 deductible. So. It's going to depend on each individual circumstance. That's why it's important for them to call and to sit down with the Farm Bureau agent and let them go through it, and let them look and see what they have and where they can help them. It may be, for Jane, it may be better to be on this plan and not even have a group plan.
So it's a run the numbers thing.
It's a run the numbers thing.
It's a math equation. So let's take a farmer in the Mississippi Delta, somebody that farms, 2,500 acres. Not a huge farm, but not a small farm. He's got a wife. He's got 2 kids. Wife stays at home, maybe substitute teaches on the time. She, at a private school. She's not in an insurance plan. Does this make sense for that family?
Absolutely makes sense, and we're finding tremendous amount of success with people taking that up and taking that offer throughout the state of Mississippi. And as someone that spends his time talking to the legislature, and I leave Monday going to Washington, D.C. to talk to our delegation there, one of the biggest impediments that we see for future farmers is this health care issue, to where they come back and not only is it unaffordable, a lot of cases they just don't have an option to get it. So one, we gave them an option, and two, it should be maybe about 60% of what's on the market.
Oh, wow.
It just depends on how everything works out. It could be that for sure.
And let me throw one more at you. There has been a huge push from the legislature and a lot of entities tied to economic development. There is a need in the trades in Mississippi, whether we're talking about construction or plumbing or electrician. In some cases, you have young people who are getting the skills they need, and then they're starting their own company. Mm-hmm. Is this something that makes sense for them as they're starting out, maybe have a young family to go along with it?
I had some electrical work done on my home about a month ago, and the contractor that was there, it was before we started, and we were sitting there talking about it. He had 2 or 3 young kids below 30 years of age out there working and getting this done. And I told him about it, and he said, you just tell me when I can go, because I'm sending these 3 kids over there to get them some coverage.
Really interesting stuff. Farm Bureau Health Plan. Best way to learn more, reach out to your local Farm Bureau county office.
Yeah, also go to this website, msfarmbureauhealthplan.com.
Okay.
It's got all kinds of information on there. If they want to do a little research on it, tells about it. But then at the same time, call the local agent, talk to them. If you don't have a Farm Bureau membership, you can go and become a member of Farm Bureau and get on this health plan, and that's what we'd love to see you do.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your time.
More of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross next. This is an encore presentation of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross.
I think it's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Crystal Reed is my guest. She is a Mississippi resident living with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. And one of her physicians, Dr. Barry Bertolet, president of the, hold on, make sure that I get this right, the Mississippi chapter of the American College of Cardiology. Dr. Bertolet, we've got just a couple of minutes left this morning, and I'd love to hear your perspective on what do we do going forward, whether it's specific to mavacamten, this life-saving drug, as Crystal described it, for her condition, for HCM, or for other new drugs that are coming to the market that seem to have the effect that we're looking for in serious health issues and cases, but are not necessarily being recognized or made available through insurance plans and insurance companies?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. I wish I could give you the perfect answer. But I would just say there needs to be a conversation. And there needs to be a conversation between insurance companies and then physicians that may have some expertise in the area that we're talking about. And so right now we're not allowed to have that conversation. The insurance companies aren't talking to the doctors that are the experts to try to get their perspective in that. And then more importantly, I think that the insurance companies themselves need to listen to their own advisors. And so with the case of mavacamten, the Blue Cross national advisors had said this drug needs to be approved and covered. And then our Blue Cross of Mississippi has opted not to even listen to their national advisors. So I think the best way is let us have a conversation. Let's talk about these. We understand that there's financial barriers, and I think that we want to be good stewards with the money as well. And then I think that we want to make sure the drug is available for the patients that need it. But importantly for us is that there are national guidelines. And when the national guideline calls for a drug that should be prescribed and everywhere else in the state is prescribed, and we're not able to do that in our state, then I think that we're letting our citizens down.
We're all about having a conversation here. That's the way I've tried to build this show. Let's talk about the issues and hear both sides. I will say, in kind of the idea of equal time, if there's anybody at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi that would like to have a further discussion about this on the air at a public forum, you have an open invitation. We would love to hear from you and hear your side of the story on this. Crystal, I'm curious, in the absence of Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi being willing to let you get this drug, what would your out-of-pocket cost be if you had to pay for it on your own on a monthly basis?
I have no idea. I was told $7,000 a month, $100,000 a year. My husband was willing to sell our place and do what it took to get it.
Wow.
Give up our life savings.
Dr. Bertolet, is that experience unique for the cost of a medicine on a monthly basis to be that high, especially for a relatively new drug?
I'm going to say that in this particular situation, that is unique, but this is a drug that's developed for a rare disease. And then in order to allow or to encourage drug companies to even make drugs for rare diseases, is that across the national landscape, the federal government has allowed these companies to charge these higher prices in order to recoup their investment in the development of drugs for rare diseases. If we didn't do that, unfortunately, no drug would ever be developed for a rare disease. Yeah. And so we just would be treating common stuff commonly, and then everything else you would let people go away. But I think that's sort of the purpose of insurance, right? Is that insurance is there to back us up when we need them. And we pay those premiums, which are relatively high premiums that we all pay. Some months I don't use mine, and some months we do. But when we pay those premium amounts, then in return, we expect that when we need the insurance company to help us, if it's a $5 drug or a $5,000 drug or a $5,000 surgery, we expect the insurance company to back us up.
Dr. Bertollet, last thing for you quickly, we're almost out of time. How common is hypertrophic cardiomyopathy in Mississippi?
This is a relatively rare disease. There's probably less than 150 people across the state that have this, that are on medications. And so, fortunately, it's relatively rare.
Crystal, it's the Christmas season. We'll pray for a Christmas miracle that next month and the month after and the month after that and ongoing, you will be able to get the medicine that you need. Thank you so much for sharing your story, and thanks to both of you for your time this morning.
Thank you very much.
Outstanding. Glad to hear that you're doing well right now. Crystal Reed of Macon, Mississippi, and Dr. Barry Bertollet with the American College of Cardiology Mississippi Chapter President.
I woke up this morning.
More of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross next. Listening to an encore presentation of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross.
Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community, communitybank.net. Thanks for joining us, and my appreciation to Governor Tate Reeves for spending a few minutes with us this morning. We get a chance a few times a year to visit with the governor. I feel like every time we've talked for the last year plus, a big part of what we have discussed have been wins that Mississippi has in terms of economic development. Those announcements seem to continue to be coming, and I'm intrigued. I've heard you a number of times when you're speaking talk about the goal that you have for Mississippians, and it's to raise the per capita income across the state. And the economic development projects seem to be the tool for that. Can you explain why that is why that's kind of the stated goal and how that has driven the decisions that you've made for projects in Mississippi?
Sure. I think, Richard, we should start with the fundamental belief that I have, and I think a lot of people that are conservatives across our state and across America, we'll start with that fundamental belief, which is you talk to a lot of legislators every day throughout the week, certainly during the legislative session, and they're trying to solve for a lot of different challenges that exist in our state and do a pretty good job at that. But I have a fundamental belief which says something like this: there aren't a lot of challenges in Mississippi or anywhere else that if two criteria are met, number one, that everybody in our state has the skills that they need to get, and number two, an opportunity for a job that pays $60,000 or $70,000 or $80,000 a year. If you can get those two things done, then most all the other challenges, most all the other problems in society will take care of themselves. And so that's what drives me every day to get up and work to push for more economic development in our state, a better economy in our state, because, again, I think good-paying jobs and people with the skills that they need to do those good-paying jobs will help solve all the other problems that exist out there. And so we've had an incredible run, 2024, which you and I have talked about. And these are statistics that a lot of us that grew up here and live here maybe never dreamt possible. We had the second fastest growing economy in the entire country in 2024. And we had the second fastest growing family income in the country in 2024, the fourth fastest growing per capita income. And so what you see is that those opportunities are available. They're available because of expansions that are happening throughout our existing business and industry in the state, but also because new businesses and new industries are finally looking at Mississippi and seeing what you and I have known for a long time, and that is this is a really good place to do business because we have a favorable regulatory environment. We have people that will show up and get the job done, and we make stuff in Mississippi, and we do it very well.
Last week, we got the report about the Gulf Coast Recovery Fund, big pot of money, and that is designed to go to different entities on the coast. It's leftover money that continues to come in from the BP settlement, and there were a lot of applications for that money. But most of those applications, at least as MDA described it, were for somewhat localized projects as opposed to the three coast counties kind of banding together and preparing for bigger regional type projects. At least that's what I understood from kind of reading that MDA letter and the fallout, or not fallout, but the aftermath of that report. What can you tell us about MDA's plans, what they see as best for the coast, working in conjunction with you, compared to what some of the entities on the coast are asking for?
Well, first of all, I will tell you that I don't begrudge any of the local entities, whether it's a city or a county or a nonprofit or a charity organization, for asking for state funds. That's what they are trying to put together a capital stack to do whatever individual project that they are interested in, and I think that's I don't blame them at all for asking for it. We believe, and what we've tried to do during my tenure, first as lieutenant governor and now as governor, is we believe we need to think bigger. We need to realize that we have an economic development gold mine in the state of Mississippi, and we need to be investing for the future. And so while there may be a water and sewer project, or there may be a road project in an individual jurisdiction or an individual municipality, that's really not what we believe we should be spending the Gulf Coast Restoration Funds or the Restore Act funds or the other significant dollars that are flowing into the coast. We think we ought to be thinking transformational. What can we do to take that area between Stennis on our western border and Ingalls on our southeastern border? Mm-hmm. What can we do to turn those wonderful counties into Mississippi's Huntsville? Huntsville is now the largest city in the state of Alabama. Whoever dreamt that possible 25, 30, 40 years ago? But it is the largest city in the state of Alabama, and what they have that is unique is they have an agreement and alignment amongst their elected officials, their business leaders, and we just need to continue to work to build that alignment on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, because that area that I just described is an economic development gold mine. We have the resources in place. We funded a lot of projects, many of which I think are very good projects, and I'm not even being critical of any of the specific ones that are left outstanding or that are on the list. The question just is simply, what can we do to tap in to what is already an opportunity on the Mississippi Gulf Coast that can take it to even further heights. We've had a lot of success. We're going to probably make an announcement, sometime later today, of a major capital investment in that area. But we think we can do even more. We think we need to think bigger. We need to think transformational. And that's really, I think, what our Executive Director, Bill Cork, and his team at MDA were getting at with respect to the GCRF.
That was quite the tease. Oh, we might just maybe make another economic announcement on the coast today?
Maybe so, yes. You want to tell us any more about that? I have to sign all these NDAs with all these companies and non-disclosure agreements, and so I'm going to let them make the ultimate announcement in a couple hours. But it's one of those that we really enjoy seeing because it's an existing business that has been in Mississippi for a long time, announcing significant capital investments at their Mississippi facility. And so while we have worked really hard to recruit new business and industry into the state, and I'm proud of that, it really warms my heart when I see folks that have been here for a long time recognizing that the people that live in Mississippi that work for them are worth investing in, and I think that's what you'll see with the announcement later today.
How do you get Hancock, Harrison, and Jackson counties to work together beyond just there are a few boards or there are a few folks that kind of are meeting on a monthly basis, like really partner so that becomes a regional powerhouse?
Well, Richard, you might as well have asked me, how do you get Mississippi State and Ole Miss to work together in college athletics? It's not exactly an easy task at hand. But I will tell you, I have been so blessed during my tenure as a candidate for office that Hancock, Harrison, and Jackson counties have played a significant role in the fact that I am where I am. I think most people realize that in 2019, without the Mississippi Gulf Coast, I would have had a very difficult time winning that election. They stuck with me. They united. And so we've just got to make sure that everybody, from elected officials to the business community and everyone in between, fully understand and appreciate what's at stake. Get them on the same page, realizing that we all want what's best for the entire community, and what's good for Jackson County and good for Harrison County is good for Hancock County and vice versa.
We've got more coming up with Governor Tate Reeves on the other side of this timeout. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi. We're back with you right after this.
Sometimes and this emptiness fills my heart when I want to run away. I drive off in my car, but whichever way I come back to the place you are. All my the grand facade so soon will burn without a noise, without my pride. I reach out from the inside. In your eyes, the light, the heat, I am complete.
More of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross next.
Need a business loan?
Listening to an encore presentation of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross.
3 days short of pulling out of Kingsport, I was headed down to Houston, man. Had a guitar pack and a burlap sack.
Senator Nicole Boyd joins me this morning. You got one of those, like a chocolate countdown calendar for the start of the session, or you're not that excited about it?
I don't quite have that chocolate calendar. I think there might be some other things in there besides chocolate. So that's a great question. So I don't have a countdown calendar. Maybe I should start implementing that. I think my colleagues would crack up. So
Nicole Aiken Boyd's joining us this morning. She represents District 9. That's mostly Lafayette County. This has been a busy couple of months leading up to the start of this new session. You've talked to us a lot about hearings, both in the health area, but then also in the college and university area. And just a week ago, big Senate College and University Committee hearing with a lot of people there from not just Mississippi, but some other parts of the country as well.
That's right. So we met, we had a lot of hearings last week, but for universities and colleges, we met Wednesday and Thursday. I think we had about 9.5 hours of hearings, kind of all total. But we heard from everybody from the treasurer, David McRae, looking at our college savings plan. And, that really hadn't got a lot of publicity, but it's kind of exciting. Our college savings plan is funded. One of the programs is funded at 140%, another at 100%. So they've done a really great job of making sure that those programs are fully funded for participants. And so that's super exciting, helps our state with bond rating, obviously, and all of that. So we kind of kicked off with that. But then we started really delving. Yeah.
No, I just want to interrupt real quick because when David McCray came into office, they had to pause that program for a little while because it was not actuarially sound at the time, right? I mean, this has been kind of a pretty remarkable turnaround.
I think we had some really problems in the market for just a moment. And so they adjusted with that, and it's been really a remarkable turnaround as markets have increased. They've done a great job too, and so it's really kind of exciting. We have over I think it's about 34,000 Mississippians who have a plan or a program. So that's very exciting to see. And they've done a fantastic job with that. So we're pleased with that. So really a great investment if you're looking for a Christmas present for something to start beyond maybe a set of Legos. This might be something you really want to look at and really look at that Impact Horizon program that they have with the College Savings Plan. I'd encourage every Mississippian to do that.
Yeah, and that may be a Christmas present for a grandchild or a child, but it's actually a present for the parent. You're just giving it early. It's a big present. You had some people from other states. I did. And they were talking about the way that colleges and universities are being funded. I think we're at about 30, maybe 32 states that are using some version of performance-based funding.
Yes. So we presently in Mississippi are not using performance-based funding. The College Board actually did a plan a number of years ago, but the plan has never been implemented to where we were looking at performance-based metrics.
Why is that?
This is something that they paused it. There's a lot of different reasons that are given. They paused it. The quote the commissioner gave in our joint legislative budget hearings was that there were going to be winners and losers. And so they paused it in 2000. Basically, they never started it. But in 2016, they held everybody hold harmless at where they were, and they never implemented that formula. And our committee has been very focused on this for the last 2 years, wanting to see performance measures really looked at and implemented. We have about 32 states doing it. We had Tennessee testify for us. Their funding at their higher ed level is about 96% performance-based funding. So when they implemented this in 2010 in Tennessee, they increased their 4-year graduation rates about 50%. So it's a phenomenal result, and it really drove outcomes at universities. And we need to drive some outcomes at our universities. So, if they had implemented that funding formula, if they had really implemented that performance-based metric that the College Board really looked at and adopted, we would see there would be some definite changes. They're correct on that. And, you look at some universities have been shortchanged. One of the largest, I believe, they were shortchanged about $165 million. You saw one that had been, they got more money than they would have under the formula to the tune of about $153 million of this period from 16 to now. So, we have got to drive performance. We have some numbers that are not great.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for interrupting. We need to pause there for a second. You said there is a university, and these are my words, not yours. I'm assuming it's either Ole Miss or Mississippi State that was underfunded by $160 million, and another that was overfunded by $150 million. So a $300 million swing in funding in that window.
Right. Yes, so Mississippi State should have received this is a document that they produced to us of $165 million more from 15 to 26. We're in the 26 fiscal year with the legislature, so they should have received $165 million more. So the University of Mississippi should have received $119 million more. Everybody else received over what they should receive. Now, I've got to point out, too, the W, it's only a $136,000 swing on that one. Okay. So they've kind of are at a break-even level. But you've got anywhere from JSU did not receive that much. They're about $13 million over. And then it swings up past that. So you've got vast discrepancies in here that would have.
To be clear, these numbers where we say Mississippi State received $160 million less than they should have, Ole Miss $120 million less. That is if the funding formula that the IHL approved and came up with had been actually implemented over the course of the last 11 years.
That's correct. And these are the numbers that they gave to us. So this is not the legislature doing this. This is the numbers that the IHL gave us in a report they gave us back in July. So, and that funding formula was largely based on performance metrics. So, those are, and what we really have got to do is we've got to drive performance at our universities and colleges. We know that some of our universities are above the national average in getting 4- and 6-year graduates to the completion stage. And we know that some of our universities are way behind. And we've got to drive some performance metrics on that and really start seeing this. We've got one university who even at a 6-year level, not even a 4-year level, is graduating only about 26 to 27% of the people that enter as freshmen. And those are really unacceptable numbers, because what it happens in those situations is the student comes in, they're not ready to go to college, maybe they're academically not ready or whatever, and then they're getting some college, but they're never getting a degree completion. And so what we know is students who do that actually are making less in the workforce than someone who never attempted college. Just a little college doesn't help. You've got to get the certificate and you have to get the degree. And we had people we had experts from Excel and Ed really talk about how that we've got to drive performance when looking at colleges and universities. So those are things that are account. And this all leads to, there's a couple of things that really has caused us to really dive deep in all of this.
All right, and let's start there. Nicole, let's start there on the other side of this break. We've got 30 seconds into the break, so that'll be a good place to start on the other side. Whew, those are big numbers. Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. We've got more coming up with Senator Nicole Boyd right after this.
Next.
Be sure to tune in. The story of your state gets told each day. We're proud to cover the Magnolia State like nobody else. SuperTalk Mississippi.
You're listening to an encore presentation of the Best of Mornings with Richard Cross.
Back with you on Mornings, presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community. Richard Cross and Senator Nicole Akins-Boyd, chair of the Senate Universities and Colleges Committee. She's vice chair of Senate Medicaid. And we're talking about the hearings and some of the questions that are swirling around the IHL when it comes to funding colleges and universities in the state of Mississippi. It strikes me as there are people who are going to push back on this and be like, oh, this is a rich get richer and the poor get poorer thing. But it strikes me that it's actually an opportunity to say, hey, you're not doing so well. If you'll get your act together, the funding is there for you. Or, hey, you're doing great and here's a reward and we want you to push it even farther. Am I off base on that?
No, not at all. And we saw that when Tennessee showed us their numbers of what they started with as far as what universities and colleges were getting and then where they are today. And what you saw in those universities and colleges is really performance driven. What you saw is universities and colleges really beginning to look at their performance-based metrics on that. And he presented, full transparency, the budgets of those universities. And what you saw is them start maybe dedicating those funds to making sure that performance was driving a lot of what they were doing at those universities and colleges. And you've seen this across the country. This is something, my committee has really been looking at for the last couple of years. And so because we want to see better metrics with this. And why is this important? Well, obviously we want to see a higher level of graduate. We want to see people retain this, but you have to look at the overall health of the state in workforce development. So one of the things that we've noticed very quickly is Mississippi has a attainment goal of ascent to 55. This was adopted a number of years ago. And we saw states across the country kind of adopt these things. Most of our surrounding states now it's ascent to 60%. So we're a little behind in what we're doing. We've only got about 49%.
And that's workforce participation?
No, that is people that have some certificate or college degree.
I got you.
So, some type of level. And that's important for employers when they're looking to locate in Mississippi. It's a workforce-driven component. And so that's one of the things we really started looking at. Okay, why are we not, what's going on that we are not being able to ascent to 60 right now as opposed to just 55? And so you started looking at our higher education system. What are we producing? What are we not producing? And one of the things that came across as we were doing this is we started looking at our student debt in the state. We're the number one worst debt to income ratio for student loans in the country. The people that have, there's about 15.5 Mississippians who carry student loans right now, which is a really high percentage. We're tied with Georgia for the highest in the country. And so, and the people that have these loans, they have loans about over $37,000 that they have in student loans. And that's really a large number. It also affects their ability to own homes, to do many things. We have low home ownership in the state. So these numbers start, impacting lots of different things. And so you go back to the root of these issues and said, okay, what's going on that we have these student loans? Well, one of the things that's going on that we have the student loans is we have a number of people who start college, but then never complete it. And we have a huge number of those people in the state, a very large percentage. And we're like, well, why are they not able, what happened here? And you start looking at graduation rates. And, when you look at that they're not able to complete this degree in 4 years, and IHL really wants to use the number of 6 years. That is something we're probably not in agreement about, because we want to see people able to get through, because we know it's financially important for them to get 3 and 4 years.
I mean, I'm raising my hand because it took me 6. So You were a much higher achiever, I'm sure, than I was. Your children are much higher achievers than I ever was. But I might co-sign with the 6-year window. Nicole, let me ask you this. You can talk about this in committees. It can make headlines. It can be something where people kind of have their mouth drop when they realize where the funding disparity is. But where is the rest of the legislature going to be on this? Because we know that we have, in your case, senators from all over the state of Mississippi with allegiances to schools all over the state of Mississippi. I know that sometimes Ole Miss and Mississippi State take most of the oxygen because they grab the headlines. They're in the SEC. They're the biggest universities, all of those things. In terms of forcing the IHL down this road, what leverage do you have? What power do you have?
Well, I think IHL has, and they've actually they're contracting with the same entity that did the original funding formula, and that entity is actually holding interviews with key stakeholders and community and presidents of the different universities and a lot of different people to look at a new funding formula. So we're very pleased to see IHL moving that direction. But I also think you have to remember. Hold on.
What?
Yeah.
Why do they want a new one? Why do they want to pay these people to give them a new funding formula when they've already paid them once to give them a funding formula they didn't use?
Well, they wanted to update it, and that's the process that they're doing right now. So that's what they're looking at this moment. So I'll have to let you talk to an IHL.
Well, I would love to. I would love to visit with the chairman. I would love to visit with one of the members. Every single one of them have an open invitation right here any day of the week.
Well, they'll take you up on that. But back to the question of the legislature, I think you have to remember too, this is a legislative body who, over a number of years before I got there, that really has looked at holding education leaders accountable. We have not ascended from 50th in the country to 16th in the country in our K-12 program without some of those tough, hard decisions where they've held schools accountable. Now we're looking at this to make sure that we're holding our IHL and our community colleges and everybody, and we're just talking about IHL really right now, but make sure that we are holding them accountable as well. We've done a great job of really looking at even everything with how they finance different programs and different things like that in the K-12 arena. It's time to move that bar to our universities and colleges because this really is affecting our workforce tremendously. And the legislature has made those tough decisions in the past. And you talk about a legislator going home to their K-12 school and say, I love you, but you're going to have to improve. And that's what we're really looking at right here. We've got to see better performance metrics. Other states have done it. Across the country. The other big thing too that's super important to remember is one of the things that we were we were already looking at this, but in the One Big Beautiful Bill, you've got some penalties there now for higher education programs that are not producing programs that lead to higher wages and programs such as that. So you're going to have some penalties really looking at these universities as they're producing things that are not going to lead to success for their graduates. So I think there's a new emphasis right now in this to make sure that when students, when money is being provided, that we're seeing a lot better production for what they're getting.
Well, one last thing for you as we wrap up. We got 2 minutes left. You mentioned community colleges a second ago, and I don't mean this as a tag on at the end of the conversation. We've been focused on IHL specifically right here. What about the funding model for community colleges? I don't hear about some of the same disparities within that system. Are they just over there kicking rear end up and down the state of Mississippi and doing a great job?
Well, their funding model is based on a per student funding formula. So you're getting the same thing. The graduate from Northwest Community College is getting the same thing. The student at Northwest Community Colleges is getting the same thing as the one from the Gulf Coast. Okay. So you see and that's not the case at our colleges and universities. You see a discrepancy of about close to over $5,000 in some instances. One university, their average student, they may be receiving $5,000 for, where at another university, they're receiving over $10,000 per student. And that's where that whole discrepancy comes into place.
The performance model is one thing, is just a per student flat rate. Is that something that makes sense? You got 30 seconds.
Well, we really want to see everybody start moving to outcome-based formula, not really even a per student funding formula. We really want to look at outcomes, because those are the outcome-based formulas really going to drive the success of our students, and it's going to make sure they're getting a value for their dollar when they enter the higher education system.
Senator
and
Nicole
we're looking
Boyd,
at this particularly as we start.
Chair of Senate Universities and Colleges, always.
Thank you.
More of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross next.
Polyupa, Mississippi.
You're listening to an encore presentation of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross.
That just scares the devil right out of me.
Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. Appreciate you joining us, you being part of the conversation. C-Spire text line 601-879-4395. That's the best way for you to be part of the conversation. Last guest said a lot of nothing. All talk, no solutions. That's really interesting to me that was your takeaway. No solutions yet. But her committee has spent, as she said, the last 2 years really digging in and trying to understand not only what we're doing here in Mississippi with the IHL, but what other states are doing so that they can work to push for a solution. She pretty clearly laid out the goal of the Senate Universities and Colleges Committee, and that's to push the IHL toward a performance-based, outcomes-based funding model. Now, I will say this to you. That is a hard radio conversation. I understand that. And it's hard because it's numbers and percentages and studies, and this state did this and that state did that, and how do we roll this in, and acronyms for, models and formulas and math and all of that stuff. That's hard to soak in on the radio. But to say that Senator Boyd said a lot of nothing, I just disagree with you wholeheartedly on that. In fact, I would almost argue the exact opposite. There's so much information there that it's hard to digest. Somebody said, sounds like whoever said that was listening to argue instead of listening to learn. Maybe. How do you really know how much a graduate is making, or even if they're working in the field of their degree is in? That's a good question. I think there's a lot of survey. I mean, it's volunteer survey stuff, but then you also, probably the more accurate way is for colleges and universities to collect that information. My guess would be that people would be more responsive and receptive to their alma mater reaching out and saying, hey, tell us what you're doing. We want to know how our graduates are doing, for them to say, hey, yeah, I'm working at this job and, this is the salary range. But I don't know. I mean, you've got companies like, what is it, Lance? Glassdoor? Is that the website you can go to where you can kind of get median salary and annual average salary and top earners this and whatever? Yeah. I sometimes find that those numbers are not super accurate, but they at least put you in the ballpark. Hard to push IHL to have results given the economy and jobs, and then throw in the article I just shared, the offshoring H-1B. That's Thomas. Man, you are so caught up on H-1B right now. There is more to our economy, Thomas. There is more to our workforce than just H-1B visas. I understand that there's some jobs in the technology field that are being taken by Indians. I get it. I understand. That is not the only rail of our workforce. And Thomas just did a little fist pump in the deer stand. He's like, I got Richard riled up. Ha, 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 ha. Like, have a bigger view of the world than just one issue. Russ and Rankin says you can't come up with solutions if you don't acknowledge the problem. Nicole acknowledged the problems. I was in law school with her. She has a quiet confidence and she's smart, proud that she's the chair. Yes, Russ. I agree with that. And is highly respected by our colleagues. I would add to that as well. She's on the right track, but if they are successful, they will kill black colleges. They underperform. Facts. I mean, I applaud your directness. And that is a very, very real part of this conversation. Our black colleges and universities, HBCUs, if we're being proper in the way we describe them, play a really important role in Mississippi. Historically, do they play as important a role today as they do historically? If we're going to get there, we're going to have some uncomfortable conversations about how that works. I mean, Jackson State is a school that is thriving. Some of the other HBCUs are not. We're back.
More of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross. You're listening to an encore presentation of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross.
Speaker Jason White is my guest. We're kind of talking all things legislature as we are inside a month until the 2026 legislative session begins. It feels like in terms of looking at this session, we've got to do a little bit of looking back at what happened last year with the gradual elimination of the state income tax, the excise tax on the gas going up, the grocery tax. I know it's not a grocery tax, but that's what we call it because we all know what that means. Going down a little bit. And there's a question. You were talking about increased revenues year over year for the state of Mississippi. Revenue outpacing estimates, and that is a good thing. But we are going to see revenue go down in terms of income tax incrementally over the course of the next decade. Are you concerned about, at some point, those numbers being offset in the opposite direction?
Well, as appropriators, we're always concerned with, as being stewards of taxpayer dollars, and certainly we have to pay our bills. We want to be very cognizant of that. And so that's why I think there was so much debate and so much time and energy spent on trying to get that tax cut right and the phase out and doing it over time and all that. So I was convinced then, and I'm still convinced now, that not only can we handle that tax cut over time, I think we thrive in that environment. Now, it's going to be different, certainly, but we see sales taxes way up. Folks are spending money. Certainly our income tax revenues will go down because we are obviously making those cuts. That's a policy decision of the state. We think it was for the state. We think it was the right one. So I certainly am not apprehensive or worried about that, but certainly we watch revenues and that sort of thing to provide the services that folks have come to expect from state government. Here's the kicker, or the nuance in all of that, and it's this. If you budget conservatively and in a common sense way, only spending money on things that are core functions of government and things that folks have decided is a legitimate spend of their tax dollars, you don't hear a lot from folks. But we've got to be very cognizant of that as we plan our budgets. I'll say it that way. So with that, continuing to live well within our means to the tune of $500 million now for 3 or 4 years in a row, I think we've demonstrated that we can. We're not spending every dollar we're taking in again this year, and so I think we're setting ourselves up to absorb whatever those tax cuts bring on the revenue side as it relates to that. But what we've actually seen so far as cuts that were already passed and have been being phased in, our revenues have still continued to trickle up. So we'll continue to watch it. Lots of smart folks are watching that. There was no doomsday scenario presented yesterday with our smartest budgetary people in the room. I think folks felt really good about that side of it and where we are. Those issues I mentioned before the break, are looming, and we'll deal with them as they come.
One of the things that I guess was a headline out of last year's session was that there was a lot of money that was not spent for local projects. And there are people that, whether you call it local projects or Christmas tree funds or whatever, that money didn't get spent, and so it's still sitting there. Do you anticipate last year's money being combined with this year's money and all of that being spent, or is it like that money that didn't go to special projects, local projects in counties and cities across the state just kind of goes away?
Well, that money doesn't just go away. What I have learned around the cap is sooner or later it'll be spent by somebody. I think we've done a good job, though, of spending most of that money on infrastructure and things that last, and not the last thing we want to do is wake up a few years from now and all of the money that went out as a result of American Rescue Plan during the pandemic, all the federal money that flowed down to the states, including to Mississippi. We're looking right now at how all that money was spent. How much of that is
spent, not spent,
or
in
not
some
spent,
cases.
and the deadline will loom. The deadline will be looming this time next year. If that money has not been spent, it has to be returned to the federal government. And at last calculation, we still had almost $500 million that had not been spent by the different entities that have received those grants through state agencies, whether they're cities or counties or water associations, lots of different places where those monies went. So we're watching that close and trying to get a handle. We do have a mechanism in place where most of that money will sweep and go to MDOT to some maintenance projects that are, shovel ready or already taking place, because the money not only has to be allocated, it has to be spent by this time next year. So we're watching that. We're watching that close. Richard, you asked me about what's the thing that nobody's thinking about that'll pop up this session. And again, if I knew that with certainty, it wouldn't be that thing, because I never know what that thing is.
Sure.
But what you do know is coming. You've talked about it a lot on your show with different guests, and then in other media outlets. I see it a lot. We hadn't hidden the ball on the fact that we want this session to be about education reform and freedom. And so folks are probably going to, if they're not already tired of hearing us talk about it, they're probably going to get tired of hearing us talk about it, because it will be the number one issue for us in the House is lots of reform. It's not just about some avenues of school choice. It is a huge, monumental piece of legislation that touches almost every facet of K-12 public education in our state. Everything from not only education freedom, but ways retired teachers can come back and teach with us and draw their retirement.
Something we talked about just yesterday because of a teacher shortage. We talked about that with Dr. Lance Evans, the state superintendent of education, yesterday, that's one of the areas that they want to see reform or at least some change to the system that would allow retired teachers to be able to come back into the school systems if they want to do that without it affecting their retirement.
We're going to work hard to get that right. We've got to be careful about that because of some tax ramifications with the way our entire public employees retirement system is run. It's tax exempt on their side of it. So we just got to be mindful of all. It's not as the devil's in the details on that to get it right so that we don't do anything to jeopardize our tax status.
All right, let me ask you this. Will school choice and the sometimes vitriolic debate over universal school choice, no school choice whatsoever, or somewhere in the middle, will that hold hostage some of the other important things that people are not talking about, some of those details, whether it's retired teachers or any of the other issues that are related to education? Or is there a scenario where maybe the school choice ends up in some sort of a hybrid compromise, but you're able to get all of these other things that aren't going to get the same number of headlines done so that there is good legislation in place?
Yes. I would like to say, for the most part, I think common sense has prevailed around the cap on most big issues. And we may have not gotten it perfect, but we got it right. And I think you'll see that on this. The same lawmakers are there that brought you House Bill 1, that brought you a new funding formula. They're all of a sudden not going to turn off their brains and their common sense and their issues that they hear from their locals. My members are very in tune with what they hear from constituents and folks in their community. None of that changes, even on the school choice debate. And so, will all of that do different things, bring different people to the table? Certainly they do. Like, I have members that are passionate about different aspects of school choice, either for or against. Just like I have people that think we should have financial literacy required in our schools. Some don't care that much about it. So different people are really concerned about the teacher shortage and retired teachers. People are concerned about the public-to-public transfer, both for and against. Like, different things bring people to the table. So when you couch it as any of that stuff being held hostage, I would just say it's not an issue of that. It's an issue of there's no purity in our ideas or in the politics of it. Guy or girl gets 80% of something they want around the legislature, they probably ought to take it. That's a good day.
Yeah.
And Haley Barber taught us that, if nobody else did, that's your friend, and you probably ought to take that. So,
from the outside looking in, there appears to be a fairly adversarial relationship between the two ends of the Capitol, between the House side and the Senate side. I don't know that that's necessarily the case with the members, but it does appear to be the case in terms of leadership. Can that be lessened? Can that adversarial relationship be lessened for the good of the people of Mississippi?
I think so. But I think you've seen people put personalities aside. I think it's overblown. It's not a personal thing. It's just we were passionate about eliminating the income tax, and they weren't so passionate. I wasn't mad at them about it. I'm not mad at anybody about their views on school choice. Unfortunately, I'm convicted on the issue and think that parents know what's best, and so I'm going to advocate for their decision-making power. And wherever we get in that, I think Mississippians will be better off for it. People aren't going to forget they answer to constituents when they start looking at these issues.
We're back right after this.
More of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross next.
Nowadays,
you're listening to an encore presentation of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross.
Securing America.
Since the start of the second Trump administration, America has been serious about protection of borders. But within a year's time, the World Cup will happen here. As President Trump said,
"This will be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to showcase the greatness of America and world-class athletic competition."
And the president wants to ensure those who come to our shores
are properly vetted and able to come to the United States next summer easily.
President Trump introduced the FIFA Pass to make sure ticket holders will have their entry visa processing expedited. The Departments of State and Homeland Security are key to the process. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem said host cities will have every opportunity
to partner on technologies and screening technologies, drone technology.
All to protect an event expected to bring billions to the Mexican, Canadian, and U.S. economies. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
The Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Mississippi, Delbert Hosemann, joins us in studio. Always a pleasure to see you. Good morning.
Good to see you, Richard. Now, I was listening to you on the way in this morning, and of course it's real cold out there. But you were talking about the debt, and that is a pet thing of mine. And I don't want to interrupt any of your questions, but I do want you to know that since 2022, we've not borrowed any money in the state of Mississippi. And in fact, we have paid off $1.4 billion in state debt, which is about 20% of the state's debt. By the time I leave 2 years from now, we'll have paid off a third of the state's debt, $2 billion. So we are doing exactly the opposite of what your monologue was just a minute ago. Not only that, because we're cutting taxes, put $2 billion in roads, all the other things that you see, funded education for the first time 3 times in a row. All of that you see, but what you don't see is we're not borrowing any money. We're actually paying off our state's debt.
No, I think that's a great place to start our conversation. As a state, we are walking around with a billfold in the back of our pocket that is bursting at the seams and doing a lot of things with the money that we have that kind of makes up our budget. In terms of the money that we're sitting on, how much do we have in reserves right now as a state, and is that a good thing? Is it good to be sitting on a pile of cash, or can that money be used in better ways? Do we need to decide how to spend some of it?
Well, you need to take it two steps there. First of all, we have about $1.5 billion in cash. In addition, we have $700 million in the rainy day fund and about another $400 million in the hurricane fund. So if you added all of that up in various and sundry other matters, you'd come to about $3 billion in cash. The capital expense fund, which we can spend on different matters, is about $1.5 million. So that's what we're looking at. And, of course, there are a number of different needs. One, for me particularly, is to fund the retirement plan, which we worked on after we made the change last year. So we want to make sure that our employees and our retirees are funded. That's one chunk of cash that we're looking at. Medicare is another. We've been approached by Medicare and Medicaid that said we need $350 million more recurring expenses for the state to cover the Medicaid portion. So there's several big items out there, certainly to absorb some of that. And then, of course, it's healthy to have some cash. Like in your business, in your own personal life, it's nice to have a little savings account. And do you know what our budget was this year? $29 billion with a B. Okay. I mean, it was even after we got through our legislative budget group, which House and the Speaker and me and the Senate members did. It was $29 billion. That's just a staggering amount of money to try to keep up with. $7 billion of it was our tax money, and the remaining portion comes from federal, from Medicare, Medicaid, and a number of other things. So it's a big budget. So when you talk about having $1 billion in the bank, it's really only about, when you look at it, it's about a couple of percent of the money we spend every year. So we're looking hard at that. We like to have a balanced budget, and we like to continue to pay our debt, and we like to continue to pay every year. We reduce income taxes by $100 million. This year will be 3.75 and goes down $100 million every year. Yeah. So, and we're fully funding education. So we've got some additional funds because the real reason, I guess, is because we didn't do any last year. When we did not agree on our budget, and they called us in that we had excess that we might have done for certain projects or certain other matters, but we didn't, and so we accumulated 2 years worth.
Do you anticipate that money that was not spent this year will be spent, that was not spent last year will be spent this year in addition to this year's money?
No, I really look at this with a view towards where we're going, a longer-term view of how we're going to do things. In Mississippi, we have a number of different needs. I mentioned the pension plan and the health care. Those are our two biggest. Our education needs are very, very needy. They require a lot of funds. This year, we want to do another teacher pay raise. It's got much past due for that, and that includes our community college and our universities. Our community college teachers, a lot of them are teaching people whose students will then go out and make more money than the teacher does. So it's hard to keep a teacher when, when you've got a nurse teaching nurses and they go out and make more money than you do. It's very hard to keep somebody to teach them at junior college and community college level or at the university level. So there are some things I think we need to address to make sure that we're competent. And I look at those as a view and as how our money ought to be spent, not necessarily that we ought to spend it or not spend it. I think it's on how you spend it is more important.
There are a lot of layers to the retirement system conversation to PERS. One kind of new wrinkle that has come as part of the tax plan that was passed a year ago. There was the addition of Tier 5, a new piece of the retirement system, and we heard from the First Responders Association a few weeks ago, and they are asking and trying to work with the legislature on kind of a carve-out that would create a different standard for first responders because of the intensity of that job, the toll that it takes on the body, and also the recruiting, the ability to recruit new first responders into that difficult line of work. When you hear that, what is your reaction?
Well, I happen to be meeting with them today, so we'll be talking about.
There you go. Very good.
So we're not far behind. Give me a couple hours, I'll be able to tell you exactly what they'd like to do or not like to do. Our first responders have a different lifestyle. I actually saw that they live longer than most people do just because they stay healthy, which is a good idea for us to keep in touch too. We ought to be staying healthy ourselves. But I'll meet with them today, and we have the new plan's a 401k plan, the equivalent of a 401k plan. So I'm interested in how that's going to go. It's 100% vested. The old plan wasn't vested for 8 years. So there's some things we need to discuss, and particularly on recruitment and how the lifestyle that they have and the dangers that they face every day.
Yeah. Well, and then if you look at something like the group of first responders, which nobody would argue the importance.
Absolutely.
Then you turn around and you ask the question, well, what about the importance of teachers, and should there be a carve-out for them?
Absolutely.
Does it become a slippery slope if you identify one particular group and say, okay, you're going to be outside of this particular part of the retirement system?
It does, and the one thing that you want to make sure, Richard, we were upside down. That's an old Warren County term. We were collecting $2 billion and paying out $3.2 billion. So we were leaking $1.2 billion a year in our retirement plan. So we were headed towards the same thing Social Security is, which is being dead broke in 2034. And what the Congress does with it then, I don't know. But regardless of that, we were headed towards a catastrophe. So we whatever we do, we don't want to get back in where we're headed towards a catastrophe. So we have to be very careful in making sure that the new plan offers a retirement benefit that fits the troubles and the work that these people do for us. But we also got to make sure that we pay the people that are here and the people that have retired already. We owe them an obligation. And so that's what really, I think, moved the legislature this year to make those changes when they hadn't ever been able to do it in the last 20 years. So I was real proud of the legislature to come up with a plan that they thought would be competitive in today's market. And I expect our retirement plans better than you would get at this radio station and at most of the businesses in Mississippi. So
I'll have you take that up with my boss. I'm not going to complain on the air about
I'm just trying to help you out there, buddy.
I appreciate it. We've got a minute until the break, so kind of going back to where we started with that big pile of money that we're walking around with our billfold with $1.5 billion in the bank. Are you for the idea of taking a chunk of that money and throwing it at PERS to take care of that unfunded liability?
I am, and we have been in discussions about that with others in the Capitol, and I'm very interested in that, actually.
It sounds to me like you and the Speaker are actually on the same page on a number of issues, which is not always the case.
Well, we had a couple-hour meeting the other day, and I really had the chance to visit, and we covered a lot of topics.
All right. We'll get to some of that coming up next. Visiting with Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Mississippi, Delbert Hosemann. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank, communitybank.net. We're back with more of DLG right after this.
The heart is a balloon, shoots up through the stony ground. There's no room, no space to rent in this town. You're out of luck, and the reason that you had to care, the traffic is stuck, and you're not moving anywhere. You thought you'd found
more of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross next.
Patriotism is a lot.
This is where the story of your state gets told each day. We're proud to cover the Magnolia State like nobody else. SuperTalk Mississippi.
Listening to an encore presentation of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross.
I was only 17 back then, but it seems like I knew more than I do now. I can't say he didn't tell me this city life's a hard road to hoe.
Good to be with you. It is Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm, SuperTalk TV across the Magnolia State, a dozen radio stations. Thanks so much for making us part of your day. We are joined this morning in studio by Andy Gibson. He is the Commissioner of the Mississippi Department of Agriculture and Commerce. Always enjoy the time. Mr. Commissioner, good morning.
Great to be back with you, Richard. Good morning to you and everybody out there on this wet, rainy day.
I saw a picture from a deer stand from you that was online a few days ago. Has it been a good start to deer season?
It has been. You know, my children have done better than I have so far, but I'm enjoying and I plan to spend a little more time out there this weekend, Lord willing.
There you go. Be a good weekend for it. Cooling off a little bit. Yeah. Some boys looking for some girlfriends out there, which seems to make them all move around a little bit.
They'll move and they won't worry about who's in the deer stand.
That's right. A lot to get to. You had an op-ed recently about the Mississippi retirement system, PERS, and the need to stabilize that and kind of strengthen it and make it sustainable going forward. I was looking at a chart recently about credit ratings for states all across the country. Mississippi does not have the highest, the AAA credit rating as a state. Now, it's good enough credit that you can go out and buy a house, you can start a business, whatever. Right. But if you want to go, I don't know what you can do at a AA plus rating that you can't do at a AAA rating. Right. But I do see other states that have got that AAA. Why is that our credit rating?
The state has a credit rating just like everybody out there in Mississippi does. So if you have liabilities, if you have debts, you got to make sure you can pay those debts. And one of the largest liabilities that the state of Mississippi has and obligations, and it's a sacred obligation to our retirees, to hardworking employees who are looking to retire. That's our state PERS retirement system. Mm-hmm. And that retirement system has, over the years, been a huge issue, and it continues to. In recent years, the legislature has looked at ways to try to enhance it, to increase it, but frankly, it's underfunded. And according to those reports that analytics are putting out, analysts and credit ratings experts, Mississippi's funded rating of that fund is actually only 56% today compared to a lot of states that are out there, 80, 90%. A lot of states who had excess cash back after COVID actually paid into their funds to enhance that funded ratio. And in Illinois, the funding ratio is 50%. Mississippi's 56%. So you had some recent negative outlook discussions among folks like Moody's Investor Services and looking at the state. The question is, can the state afford to pay this retirement system? And it's a huge issue, and we have so many great things happening in Mississippi, but I think this is one that we need to make sure we take care of and address not only for the sake of the folks who are in the PERS system, so many great teachers, former teachers, retired teachers, law enforcement, firefighters, but for folks who are in the system and expecting to retire, and also future employees. And we want to make sure that we keep this fund flush, and it'll also help the people of Mississippi, because if we get a downgrade, it's going to, just like you get a downgrade on your credit, you can't get credit, you can't borrow money, we wouldn't be able to fund the bonded projects in a way that we would need to. So it affects all taxpayers, and what we don't want is a negative credit rating on the state of Mississippi. And I am encouraged, as I said in my op-ed, there has been a lot of attention to that to try to address it in recent years. And I think, though, that the recent reports that came out from Moody's in the spring, and then also other reports that have come out this fall, have indicated there's more work to be done. And we have to make it a priority for the sake of all of our retirees, for the sake of our employees, and for the sake of the state of Mississippi's financial health. It's a big, big issue.
I feel like sometimes when we talk about PERS and we start talking about unfunded liabilities and, percentage of amount, it scares people into thinking, oh my gosh, am I going to get my check next month?
Right.
And that's not really accurate. I mean, there is money to pay what is owed right now, what is due today. So it's not a crisis in the sense that we can't pay the people what they have earned, what they have saved this week or next month or even next year.
Right.
But it's the long-term sustainability, right? 20, 30 years down the road that's a legitimate concern?
That's exactly right, Richard. Nobody needs to panic about this, but people do need to be concerned about it. And frankly, I'm concerned about it as an agency head, because a lot of people in our agency are, about to retire, and they're looking at this and wondering, how's it going to work for them? And also, with the recent changes that were put in place, with changes that will go into effect March the 1st, that's going to take away some of the former type of retirement system. It's going to be harder, I think, to hire folks into the system who will continue to pay into that system as we look to the future. And I know that law enforcement out there is concerned about this, firefighters, first responders, and rightly should be.
Yeah.
But we just got to make it a priority and fund it. And make it that priority that it needs to be, not just 1 year, not just 2 years, but over a long period of time. The state of Mississippi, the legislature is going to have to make that commitment. When I was in the legislature, we didn't have any money to do anything with. The state was pretty well. The state was back during that recession, broke. That's right. Now the good news is Mississippi does have a lot of excess funds. Revenues continue to outpace estimates, and so this is an opportunity we can't miss to support our great state employees, retirees, and frankly the entire state of Mississippi's credit rating is at issue here.
All right, so I guess in terms of advancing this conversation, the state of Mississippi is in a good financial position. Not a great position, but a good position with some excess money, some fully funded rainy day fund. If you get into a really bad spot, and then a decision to make about where some of that excess money is spent. And in the case of a year ago, it didn't get spent.
Right.
So we'll see what that looks like.
Yeah.
But when you say we need to fully fund PERS, or we need to make sure that this system is whole, I feel like the natural follow-up question is, okay, well, how do you propose that we do that? Mm-hmm. Because while we're in a good financial position, I don't think there's a money tree at the Capitol with unlimited funds. I mean, I think you still got to decide where you spend, what you fund, and what you don't fund. And so in saying we need to take care of this, how do you go about doing that? What do you cut out?
It's a matter of priorities. And there's always, I've served in the legislature, and I know how this process works as good or better than anybody else. Everybody wants something, and it's a matter of making it a priority. And there's nothing that's a greater priority than the financial health of the state of Mississippi for the long term. I'm thinking 5, 10, 20 years down the road. And I think the legislature gets that, and I do sense that there are a lot of legislators and leadership that want to do something about this. When you talk to folks on the PERS board, there is a sense by some of the members on the board and the analysts also that as much as $200 million a year should be devoted to this over the next 10 years. If you put $200 million in, they tell me over 5 years, what you're going to have is about an 80% funded system. And if you do it over 10 years, you're going to get to 90%, which is in line with our sister states around us that have put additional funds into their system. So we got to get there, and it's a matter of priorities. $200 million is a number that I've heard. I've heard other proposals that are out there to put a big chunk this year, and then maybe smaller amounts over the next years. And I want to give a shout out to Senator Daniel Sparks. I talked to him at length about this the other day, and I really appreciate his attention to this, his involvement in it. I think he's got a really good idea of where this system is and what needs to happen. And I'm encouraged to hear that, and I hope that folks will follow through with it. Talking about it's one thing, getting it done is another thing. It's got to be made a priority, and I look forward to seeing and hearing what will be done as we go through the process in the next couple of years.
And I don't know that there's anybody that spent more time on that than Senator Sparks has. I mean, he is way off in the weeds in the numbers in terms of what it looks like. But you added Tier 5 a year ago during the legislative session, the 2025 session. But we're already hearing from groups. I mean, you mentioned the First Responders Association going, hold on, this doesn't work. We can't recruit people in with this type of a retirement system compared to what we've had.
Yeah.
Do you carve something out for them? Do you carve something out for the teachers?
Something's got to be done. And as one who has run an agency, as an agency head, I can tell you it is going to have an impact on our ability to hire folks. When you take that retirement system away, we're already not paying or not able to pay folks what the private sector can pay. You take that out, and you've got a situation where it's going to be increasingly hard to hire good folks into the system who can continue to pay. And it's not going to be any harder for anybody than it will be for law enforcement and firefighters who are putting their lives literally on the line, first responders. And don't forget our teachers out there as well. This has got to be addressed, and I look forward to seeing how it will be in the days ahead.
We've got a little more coming up with Andy Gibson, the commissioner from the Department of Agriculture and Commerce. A big announcement, we think, that is coming for farmers next week, and dates announced for the Dixie National Rodeo. We'll be right after this. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi.
Of Mornings with Richard Cross
at Key Constructors.
Listening to an encore presentation of the best of Mornings with Richard Cross.
Bullet points.
I'm Eben Brown. There's now an extra step to buying a handgun in Delaware. A new law is now on the books after a judge declines to restrain it pending a court battle. That requires anyone looking to buy a handgun in Delaware to first obtain a purchasing permit. That law passed along party lines in the Delaware state legislature, where Democrats hold the majority. But what many might find interesting is that despite this requirement of a purchasing permit, the state does not require permits for ownership of handguns or for openly carrying them, only to conceal carry. But at least for now in Delaware, to buy a gun, you need a permit, and to get the permit, you need to pass a background check, get fingerprinted, and complete a safety course. Second Amendment groups are suing over the law, claiming it's unconstitutional. A court recently ruled Delaware's law disallowing adults ages 18 to 20 from buying guns is out of bounds. And those are your bullet points. I'm Eben Brown, Fox News.
Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. Glad to be with you this morning. You can join us on the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395, 601-879-4395. You have perhaps heard about, whether it's going back to campaign season or in the early weeks of President Trump's administration, about the new savings initiative for children. what are being called the Trump accounts, a government-created investment program established as part of the One Big Beautiful Bill. The accounts function like traditional long-term investment vehicles, but with rules specifically designed to protect young savers. So what do we know about these accounts? A Trump account can be opened for any child under 18 that has a valid Social Security number. An authorized adult, so a parent, a guardian, a sibling, or a grandparent, must be the one to establish the account. It is expected to go online and be available in mid-2026, with the initial contributions occurring after July 4th. So parents of babies born in 2025 through 2028 can open an account. There's an IRS form you complete for that. What about the funding for it? Individuals can contribute up to $5,000 per year into a Trump account. Governments and nonprofits may also make eligible contributions. Funds from another Trump account may be rolled over, meaning if you got money in one Trump account, it can be transferred directly into a new or a different Trump account. There's an initial $1,000 deposit that is coming from the federal government. So the U.S. Treasury will make a one-time $1,000 deposit into every eligible Trump account. The Trump account will grow in value based on money invested in the stock market, stock index funds to be particular. So these funds will track the stock market. There was an interesting story last week about an American billionaire and a donation to the Trump accounts. Michael Dell, perhaps you have a Dell computer sitting on your desk or in your briefcase right now, and his wife Susan pledged $6.25 billion last week to provide 25 million American children ages 10 and under an incentive to claim the new investment accounts. It's one of the biggest private donations to charity in American history. The Dell's gift will use the Trump account's infrastructure to give $250 to each qualified child under the age of 11. Michael Dell has an estimated net worth of $148 billion. Now, there was some interesting stuff that was online last week about why the Dells would do this, and it was kind of fascinating. I'm just going to be perfectly honest with you. I got to do some more digging on this. It was one of those explainer things that you see on Twitter. The point is, though, that their investment of $6.25 billion will actually go a lot farther because they are going to leverage the federal government's infrastructure as opposed to having to foot the bill of the administration of this money on their own, which might cost $200 to $300 to $400 million. And then there are obviously tax benefits for the Dells as well. So just a little more info on those Trump accounts. Maybe it starts a savings boom in the United States. Listen.
To the hospital, and I swore I wouldn't go. My blood was running much too high, my heart was much too slow. The doctor had some questions, so easy had to know. My lady shook her head and said, the boy's got no control. Well, I wasn't born in trouble, my adopted middle name.
Thank you for listening to this encore presentation of the Best of Mornings with Richard Cross.
A SuperTalk Mississippi Media production.